Are you or your sales team dropping the price of your service offering and still losing the deal? This happens quite a lot, and I want to give you some tips and tools and tricks in which to overcome that from happening and make sure that you don't have to drop the price to try and win business and then don't win the business in the first place. Let's have a look at the video. My name is James White, small business sales expert, man that loves helping small businesses achieve brilliant sales results and maintaining the price to win great business. Let's have a look at the video and see what tips you can put in place to keep that price higher. So if you're a business owner and your team are dropping the price of the service, or maybe you're a sales director and you're finding when you talk to your team, they're continually lowering the price of the service you offer to try and win a piece of business, and then you don't win the business, it gets incredibly frustrating. It feels like you've done all the work, but then not got the right result and reward for it. So how can you ensure this doesn't happen? And really there's two key factors here that we've got to consider. A is how do we ensure we don't drop the price? And B, how do we ensure we win the deal? So here are 4 things that I'm going to talk to you about which are really critical in ensuring that you equip your team or you yourself with the right information to go and win the business at the rate you want. The first point is this. Did you or did they ask enough questions about whether that company or person was a good fit for them? The reality is, if you're trying to sell to everyone and everything, it becomes really difficult to absolutely get the value that you want for the service that you offer, because you're seen as a generalist rather than a specialist. So one of the key things that I encourage people to do is to create what we call a sales criteria. I'm going to put a link so that you can download one that's a free resource we give available on our website that you can use, and these are 6 to 8 criterias for your perfect client. It doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't work with people that don't meet the criteria, but it makes you then see whether they're a good fit for you. Generally, when there's a good fit, you're more inclined then to see your rates raise and people not have to discount in order to win the business. When people are a good fit, the prospect thinks that they can really get the value from what they want from you, and you know you can deliver to what their problems and challenges are, and that helps raise that value. So the first question is for me, did you ask enough questions about the fit, or do you even have a criteria that makes out your perfect client or the ideal client that you want to work with to justify the price for what you're actually charging? When there's a good fit, better rates happen. So the second point around pricing relates to pain. The reality is people, and as I've said before on countless videos, people only buy because of 2 reasons, either a problem or a pain they've got, or a desire or a want they've got. And in most cases, if it's a pain, people are going to want to make that change. So the question is this, did you and your team probe and ask enough questions around the pain? And that's doing it in an empathetical way. I've put other videos around how you can ask great questions. I released a video a couple of weeks ago around LAPS and how you can listen, ask, probe and summarize. But the key thing is when you're engaging with a potential client, it's really vital you understand the pain and how it makes them feel emotionally, not just logically. What are the implications of the issues that they've got? What happens if they don't get them resolved? How's it affecting them personally? How's it affecting them in their business world? What reputational damage is it causing not having these issues solved? What's the implications of not getting these things in place? When we probe and ask questions around pain, we find out great information. We find out what impact it's having on people. And when we do that, we're able then, at a time and point when they come and want to get a reduction in price, we can refer back to the conversations we've had. You wanted a discount here, John, but when we talked 2 weeks ago, you told me that this was so critical for you that it was stopping you sleep at night. Surely it's worth investing to be able to get back to a position where you can start to sleep at night again, etc., etc. When we've understood the pain and probed enough in that area, it's much easier then to be in a position to increase or keep the price at the level you want it to. It's very difficult to do that when you don't know what's driving that person to make the decision. So focus on asking the questions that get to the pain point or the desire of what that person wants to achieve. And if it's the desire to make something happen, that's just as important as the pain. But the reality is we've got to know that, we've got to dig into that and find as much of that information out as we can before we then start to expect them to hit the price that we want and to hopefully sign up and work with us. So the third point is, have you or have your team asked enough of the right questions related to budget in the initial conversations? If you've seen my BANT video, you'll know that I talk a lot about how BANT, which asks for budget, authority, need and timing, is a critical way to try and identify from the other side what they feel to make an investment in your service. When you ask questions such as, tell me a bit more about how you're investing in this area, or where have you previously invested in this area, and talk me through that investment, or where you've given a range that says, typically the investment for my services is between X and Y, how does that feel for you? You get a sense of what the prospect is thinking. You'll be able to see whether they think, yeah, it's in line with what I thought, or it's a bit more than I thought, or no chance, not going to pay that. And when you start to ask those questions around budget and what's going on, and tell me a bit more about how you're doing this, or what's the impact of not having this in place, or what's the financial return that you'd like to see for making an investment in this area, talk me through that, you start to find out whether the figures that you're looking to put in place to deliver your service meet with what the prospect is looking for. And when we understand that the money's there or the budget's there, we then know it's not necessarily about them wanting to get a reduction, but more about making sure that you can deliver on what they're looking for. Ask questions around the budget, but don't say to someone, what's your budget? Because they'll never tell you. They're not going to tell you outright they're prepared to spend X on a service, but use that range question. Typically, our services range from X to Y. How does that feel for you? And watch for the reaction. If you get a reaction of, yeah, pretty much in line with what I thought, then you should know that the reaction that you're then going to get when you send your proposal is going to be one that they're comfortable with, because they know that's what you've talked about. Don't dodge the subject of money and budgets. It's fundamental in business, and the very best salespeople and sales leaders get their team feeling comfortable by asking the questions around this, so that they know not to waste their time and not to then have to lower their prices to try and win business. And the fourth and final point is this: did they respond and react to the objection in the right way? When someone says, nah, the price for that's too high, it's not what I thought, the reality is it's an objection. What that prospect is saying is, you need to give me some other information or show me something else before I make a commitment to doing that. And what they're really saying to you is, I'm not quite there yet, something's not quite right. There's a value gap between what they think and what you're offering. So the way in which you overcome that is not to talk at them, not to say, well, the reason our service is worth this amount is because we're excellent and we've done this. It doesn't matter. You can't overcome an objection by talking at it. Look at my other video that I've created around Lair, where you've got to ask the right questions and identify what they're saying and respond with a question. So when someone says to me, James, no, the price is too high, I'd go back and say, look, thanks ever so much for letting me know that. I really appreciate it. Sounds like I've not been able to convince you of the value of this service. What would you need to see to feel it's worth paying that amount for? Or how far apart on price are we? Or what sort of figures were you expecting this proposal to come in at? When we ask those questions, we can then get inside the mind of the other person to find out what they were expecting and thinking. And hopefully they're going to give you a number that is in line with what you can then try and put together to make the deal happen. Now, if you've asked the questions that I talked about around fit and around the budget in the initial stages of the sales conversation, then hopefully this conversation should be an easy one to deal with. It should be easy to say, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, we talked around the budget figures, you were comfortable there. What's changed since then? But the reality is you can't overcome an objection around price by just talking at people or just trying to ram information down their throats. It doesn't work. So make sure you ask the question in the right way. Find out what's going on. Try and identify and label the fact they've not seen the value, or what do they need to see, or what needs to happen to make them feel comfortable with that. Do that, and it's going to hopefully enable you to get the value for your services that you want to, without having to discount and be in a position where you drop in your trousers and or skirt in relation to price and then not win the business. That hurts us and makes us feel frustrated. We want to avoid that from happening by dealing with the objection the right way. So if we've approached this in the right way and seen if they're a good fit, we've asked the questions around the pain points, and we've identified the budget challenges, and hopefully we can then overcome the objection by responding in the right way and win the business. And here's a final simple point for you. If you continue to lower your price all the time, I don't think it's actually fair on you, more importantly, in the work and the career you've built, but it's also not fair on your existing customers. How would they feel if you said to them that, oh, actually, I've just dropped my price to try and win a piece of business? They're probably going to feel frustrated. So another great way in which you can handle this is to also say, look, we can't drop our prices. It's not fair on the existing customers that we've worked with. What would you need to see to feel comfortable paying the same amount that they've invested to deliver the great return that you want? Always think about those elements. Think about the reaction it would have for other customers if they knew that the price that you've lowered to win a piece of business was much lower than what they were paying, it's probably going to cause problems down the line there, and you want to avoid that from happening. So make sure you consider those 4 things when you're looking at the issues around price objections and people lowering the price to win business. Make sure there's a fit, make sure you've uncovered the pain, make sure you've discussed the budget issues, and make sure you've handled the objection correctly. And if you do that, you're going to be in a better position to get business at the levels and the rates that you want. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel, share it with other people. Let's make sure we get business owners and sales professionals all over the world getting great sales results. If you do, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button. Get my videos to you every Saturday morning to make sure you're winning great business that makes you feel good and takes your company to where you want it to go. Thanks for watching. See you soon.